Storm, earth, and fire, heed my call.
What's up everyone, it's Waves and today I finally got another Mythic Plus commentary for you guys. It's a 19 Sanguine depths which I played like 9 or 10 days ago, so I won't remember everything that happened in the key. So it's kind of like a first experience for me as well, watching this back. So I guess we just hop right into it and see how it goes. The only thing I remember about this key, which by the way I played it during the Tyrannical Inspiring week, as I said it was a few days ago, but it could be still interesting. Especially since it's one of the weirdest keys I ever played. And why that is, we will see during the video, so I'd say we just hop right into it and see how it goes. Right here we are right before the key starts. Again, as always, what we want to do, use our wolves right before the key starts to get some Maelstrom weapon stacks to go into the key. And then I'd say we just see how it goes. Sanguine Depths, you may notice about me already. Not my favorite key by any means. Sanguine Depths probably one of my least favorite keys. And yeah, then on Tyrannical, Necrotic as well. I mean, to be honest, there's no real, there's not like a really good FX combination that I would like to play in Sanguine Depths. Like I couldn't think of one that I would like to play. Maybe like the typical push week that would be Bursting Volcanic. That would be fine, but other than that, yeah, like I don't know. Sanguine Depths in general, just a key that I don't really want to play. Right here, I activated the lantern. By the way, I was just talking while it happened. I activated the lantern during my cooldowns, which if you're the only Venthyr in the group, it's really hard to like manage that on the first pack, because if you activate the lantern right in the beginning, it may not be active for long enough. Actually, it may be. It depends on, like in Fortified, sometimes it can actually happen that if you activate the lantern right in the beginning when you pull the pack, that it won't be active for long enough for you to kill all of the trash within the window basically. So I kinda delayed it a bit and used it during my cooldowns, which was probably a mistake in this case because it's Tyrannical and the trash died rather quickly. So that's just something to keep in mind for me for the next time I play Sanguine Depths, I guess. But we still got all of the buffs that we wanted from the lantern, which is nice. So we got a 10 stack buff right now and just playing the trash here. Obviously you want to be careful with the echoing thrust here to not stand in the frontal of the trash, and also on the traps that get placed on the ground to not stand in the traps obviously, so you don't die. The group randomly left already, even though there was one tick left, so I figured like I should just leave as well. The tick would just come with us and then we would just cleave it down. So I arrive at this pack right here, which they already almost kill. By the way, you may have noticed it already obviously, but we're playing with a Windwalker here, like Windwalker, Fire Mage, Enhancement Shaman. Not a comp that I play that often, like honestly it's a really weird comp in my opinion. Prot Paladin as well, Resto Druid, like the comp in general is just rather weird in my opinion. And playing such an, let's just call it off-meta comp during like a 19 Sanguine Depths wasn't really the best setup anyways. And then on top of that we had like a really weird strategy for the dungeon in terms of the route that we played, which we will see later on in the key. That's pretty much the only thing that I remember, is that it was overall just a very, very weird key. So yeah, the pack before I just used Wolves and Doomwinds, so in this pack I won't have anything to use, so we just have to play it safe and play it clean. The Windwalker dies here, which is our first death of the dungeon, but it's still fine. Like, as long as you don't have a full wipe and you, like, all of you have to run back and get to the point where you were and stuff like that, just dying once or twice here and there, like one person, and getting rest up is not that big of a deal, even in like higher keys. Speaking about like 19 or 20 keys, which is the range that I'm around at the moment. I'm getting close to timing all of the keys on 20 at the moment, and yeah, for what I'm doing, it's still true that you can still like allow some deaths to happen and it's still fine. You're still gonna have the chance to time the key. So that's pretty much where I'm at the moment. But in this case, we get the Brute down in a second here. So that will be our first Pride right here. After the first Pride will be the boss instantly, there's no more trash. So I got 30-second cooldown on my Doom Winds, 24 on Wolves. So as soon as this Pride dies, I will have everything ready to go into the boss fight. Because as I said already, it's Tyrannical. Tyrannical 19, the bosses actually hit quite hard. And the even bigger problem, sometimes, depends on the boss fight obviously, but in some cases the bigger problem is actually the HP that they have, right? So the fight takes way longer, you have to play the mechanics even better and more often. So Tyrannical just makes it to where bosses don't just flop over in like a Bloodlust Prideful window, but rather the Lust and the Prideful end. And you still have to play the mechanics and execute it perfectly right to get him down. So we will just see how that goes on this first boss. Again, we got the Pride buff, we got Bloodlust. We pretty much use everything here. I was rather unlucky with the Forceful wind stacks there in the beginning. And which is why my damage isn't as high as it could have been in this situation. What I noticed, like, okay, first of all, we're soaking the rush here, just going back a tiny bit so everyone can be in the rush and soak it. Boss already almost down to 50%, which is nice. What I noticed is actually that during your enhancement burst, you're relying on so many layers of RNG that sometimes your damage can vary by so much. Like you have to get Stormbringer procs, you have to get Forceful wind stacks, you have to get the actual Wind Fury proc, that with Unruly Winds can be like 3 times as well, like 3 procs, and then Stormflurry as well on top of that. It's just so many layers of RNG on top of each other that sometimes your damage just varies, even though you have the same amount of, for example, Stormbringer procs, which is really weird. So again, we soak another rush here. The Windwalker dies because he probably didn't use a defensive there. I used wall. If I didn't wall this, I would have died as well. But I did, luckily, so I survive here. Now we get a smash, so we just run away a bit from the boss. We have to soak these orbs though before they go into the boss. We soak both of them, almost die here. We still don't have a battle rest for the monk because we used the battle rest earlier in the trash before the first boss to rest the monk already. So yeah, at this point we just have to do it without him basically. We get another rush here, so I soak this in order to save the mage there. And I actually survive, which is really good. Boss down to 15%. Still, monk is not alive, so it's gonna be really close. We have to be very careful. Another smash. We try to outrange it here. Place the orbs far away from the boss. 12%. The tank soaks 1 orb. I soak the other orb. We drop a tiny bit, but the healer stabilizes us here. And boss down to 9% now. We kick the drain. I soak the next orb. And this is where it gets really sketchy because I get a rush and pretty much the healer soaks it, and because the healer died, I didn't get damaged by it, and the healer's just in his night phase seat here, but we kill the boss, the monk released, and we can continue on to the next pack. So overall just a bit scuffed, but we got it done. As I said already, like no full wipe. We didn't have to redo the boss without Lust or Pride or anything. We didn't have to do a walk back or anything. So just one guy dying, delaying the time that we need to kill the boss actually. Not that big of a deal at the end of the day, right? So we can just continue. The tank dies here on this pack. So my Earth Elemental is not ready yet. So I just decide to put a slow and a stun down. And right here, what you saw right here is perfect stalling in my opinion, right? The tank wasn't here yet. You can see it on the minimap. The tank is still here because he rests. So I had the slowdown, the slow totem, the Earthbind totem, to slow them down. Then I put the cap totem, so they couldn't like walk out of my cap totem because they were slowed basically. And then right after the cap ends, you can see it's 2 seconds of the cap stun on all of them. Tank is not here yet, so I position myself over here to where I would hit every single one of those enemies with my Sunder and knock them back to buy the tank some more seconds to get into the pack and grab aggro on all of them without them like walking around hitting other people or casting anything. So if I just continue here, you can see I press the Sunder and there you can see 2 seconds of the knockback on pretty much all of the enemies right here. So I just buy the tank a few seconds to get back into the pack. And yeah, even though it's not much, it's something that you can do if you play Sundering, which I would always recommend to you playing Sundering. It's an insane talent. It's one of the best abilities that we have at the moment. So definitely keep that in mind to make use of the knockback from time to time. A lot of people just only use it for damage, which I can see why people do that, but it has huge potential as an AoE interrupt and knockback as well. So definitely keep that in mind and be aware of that potential that the talent has. So we move on to the next pack. There's an inspiring mob in there, so we definitely want to focus that down. I actually just used Doomwind's Ascendance here because we pulled a gargoyle on top actually, and right as he pulled the gargoyle through this this little entrance, he did the frontal cleave and hit me, which is why I almost died. And the tank as well. I just threw some healing surges at him there to support the healer, topping the tank. And I don't know what it is with this gargoyle, by the way. Like, I know that he has a frontal, right? But if you have seen my video about the pugging experience that I uploaded a few days ago, sometimes the tanks just randomly turn this guy into me with the frontal right before the frontal goes off. I don't know what it is. I don't know like why everyone just does that. Like right there, not this time, but when he pulled it, he just came through the door and instantly fronted me, and I'm like, bro, okay, like what can I do? So I don't know what it is with me and those gargoyles, but I actually don't like them. So right here, as a Venthyr, I activate the next lantern before I use my cooldowns this time, so I actually learned from my mistake. We got an Overseer here. For the Overseer, it's always nice to have your sprint ready for the Dread Bindings. Like on those Dread Bindings, if you have your sprint, you can just activate your sprint and the bindings will instantly break, right? So you don't have to walk away. In this case, I just finished my burst before running out because it doesn't do that much damage, but still you want to break the bindings at some point. But I didn't have sprint there. But yeah, now we get the next Overseer and my sprint is ready again. So now I can actually showcase how you can do it, right? So we pull them into the lantern as well to extend our buff here once we kill them. Yeah, so here's the Dread Bindings. I use my sprint. Bindings instantly break. I can just stay in the fight and continue damage, which is nice. There are actually quite a few of those Overseers. So as long as you don't really need your sprint in any other situation, just try to keep it for the Overseers because it just generates way more uptime if you don't have to walk away from it. You get way more damage, basically, and that's just a benefit. So we're at 38% trash count right here. So we will get a Pride after this room. I use Doomwinds here, don't really have anything else, but Doomwinds is just enough to carry damage on packs. Like you can see, I'm doing almost 20k DPS just using Doomwinds, no other cooldowns. I actually pull aggro here. I get necrotic stacks. So yeah, even Doomwinds with funnel damage is enough to pull aggro. Enhancement aggro, I've mentioned it multiple times, it's kinda all over the place, especially since we funneled so much damage. You have to be careful to not attack the same target for too long if it's not a priority target, right? So especially if you crash into Stormstrike and you just funnel damage in from multiple enemies into one enemy, you have a very high chance to rip aggro there. So definitely be aware of that and pay attention. So just basically be ready as soon as you pull aggro to either like Astral Shift or heal yourself or use a healing potion. By the way, I'm sorry, this is a stream replay, which is why you can see subs right there. Shout out to Kaubi, by the way. Not taking part in the key this time, but still sneaking into the video. But yeah, so definitely be aware of the aggro problem. Or just switch the target more often, right? If you just switch the target every like 2 globals or something like that, the chance will be way lower for you to pull aggro. It will be nearly impossible to do that. So keep that in mind. Now we get another Overseer. Right here we focus the Oppressor because the Oppressor is inspired from the affix. He actually just flops over from our damage because I used Doomwind's Ascendance because it's a rather difficult pack. Again, it's not fortified, so it's not that hard, but you know. Bindings, I use Sprint as always, just as I told you on the pack before. We still got the Pride buff, so we do this guy as well. typically you skip this, I feel like, in most routes. By the way, again, sorry for the sub, but shout out to Smoothie, all of my friends there resubbing. Yeah, so pretty much you always skip this guy and all the small ones. We didn't in this case, and pretty much this is where I actually noticed that the route is kind of weird that we're playing, right? But it will get worse, trust me. You will see, like, the further the key continues, how weird this key actually is. So he pulls him really far here. I think he was resetting his necrotic stacks, and like this, fighting single enemies where you cannot cleave is just basically such a huge time waste, in my opinion. Like, there's a reason why in really high keys you always do those very, very large pulls, right, with a lot of enemies, because it makes sense, because cleave damage is just efficient at the end of the day, right? And playing an enemy like this, like, it makes sense why you skip this guy, because he just has so much HP, and you effectively, as soon as all of the small enemies are dead, you just single target him down, which is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel good, you know? So yeah, we're already at 51% trash, going into the next trash pack here. I used Doomwinds here. My wolves would have already, like, they are close to being ready, but in my opinion it wasn't worth waiting for them with Doomwinds, so I just Doomwinds only without wolves here, and just try to cleave them down. A lot of these packs will be quite annoying in, like, this circular room where the second boss is, or the circular hallway, I guess you can say, because they won't be easy to clump up all the time, right? So sometimes some of them will chase the tank, while others will just stand there and start casting, and you can't interrupt them because they are non-interruptible casts. So trying to get the most out of, like, the most damage out of those situations is really important. And you always want to have an eye out for where can I get the most cleaving, basically. Obviously not always, because sometimes there are priority targets that need to die first, and even though, like, other enemies get kited out of the pack, you still want to focus this one guy to get it down. But that's very situational, and you obviously have to just decide for your given situation if that's the case or not. So right here I use Wolf's Doomwinds. I focused on the Inspired mob. This is a perfect example. Like, all of the enemies are clumped up over here where the monk and the other people are, but I'm still standing here and killing the Inspired mob. At this point, maybe it's not necessary to focus him down other than going for the cleave, but I just decide to tank him here and kill off the Inspired mob. So, I mean, I'm pretty safe. Like, I can just tank this guy, it's no big deal. Just have to be careful to not add any enemies from, like, the pack behind me, which is why I turned around the camera there and checked on the next pack. But it was all good. And we kill off these enemies right here as well. And we get Pride. So I'd say it was actually a good thing that I focused on the Inspiring mob, because if I had joined them on, like, the other enemies, and we would have just ignored the Inspired mob, it would have been basically max HP when we killed all the others and triggered Pride. And then we would have the Pride and the Inspired mob, which I don't know if that would have been too good. So we actually play this Pride here. This is a really weird Pride. Because typically the 60% Pride is what you want to use to go into the second boss in Sanguine Depths. That's at least how I always played Sanguine Depths keys. We didn't, right? We just randomly triggered the 60% Pride at the middle of nowhere, it feels like. And you basically want to use the 80% Pride for the third boss, which would be the idea, right? First Pride, first boss, second Pride somewhere, then the third Pride, which is this one right here, we would have used on the second boss. Fourth Pride would be on the third boss, and then the last Pride on the last boss, right? That would be, like, the stereotypical idea for Sanguine Depths, in my opinion. But we just randomly used it, like, in the middle of nowhere. Now we have the Pride buff for some random ass pack, where I didn't even use cooldowns there, because they weren't ready in the beginning. Now we just have, like, one enemy, and then the other one is at, like, 10% HP, so it's not really worth using Doomwinds here anyways. So I'm just in a Pride window, but I can't use cooldowns because it wouldn't make sense, right? And I feel like that. I feel like this was just a wasted Pride. Like, I don't know, like, the timing on the Pride was just so weird. So then randomly the tank walks back, Like, I had no idea what we're doing. He didn't share a route or anything. So we're just all standing here. Did you see that? Like the druid, the mage, the windwalker and me, we just all stood there and we're like, what the fuck is this tank doing? So the tank actually went back and pulled a bat. Again, we're playing one enemy right here, right? Just a single enemy, which I said is very inefficient. It's just bad. You can't do any AoE damage, you can't cleave, you can't do anything, you can't funnel damage into it. It's just a single bat that we're playing right here. So it feels really bad. And then, if I remember correctly, yeah, now he pulls a second bat, which I don't know their pathing. Maybe it wasn't possible to pull them together, but pulling it in so late and just playing one bat by its own, then playing another bat by its own, it just feels bad. So I actually decided to use Doom Winds here to kill the bats faster, to A, not sit on my Doom Winds for like half an hour, like it felt like half an hour, and B, to make this inefficient pull of just playing two enemies one by one a tiny bit more efficient, right? So yeah, it was just weird overall. We play the next pack then. There's another inspired mob in there. Again, I would have liked to have Doom Winds for this pack, but I kinda didn't. Then he pulls a gargoyle on top as well. Then we have this inspired mob that's just standing in the void zone here. So I decide to tank it again because if I tank it, I could kind of drag it out of the zone a tiny bit, so I would have had an easier time damaging it. Like right now, I have to walk through this zone to kill him, but yeah, it kind of just didn't work out the way I wanted it to be. So I just killed it off there, and then I continued on to the gargoyle to help the people. Then he randomly, like the tank at this point, you can't really see it because my camera angle was weird. But he said activate the lantern now, which I thought he planned on me activating the lantern. Then he pulls in the gargoyle right before it dies into the lantern, and then pull the next pack into the lantern, right? That was my thought process after he said activate it now. He just randomly didn't, okay? He just didn't pull the gargoyle into the lantern for some reason, which was weird, I don't know. Then he pulls the next pack, and at least he tries to kill them in the lantern, I think. So again, I use Wolf's Doom Winds here because we got 3 enemies and all of that was ready, so I just used it there. We killed the first guy in the lantern, and it actually was in time, so we get a lantern buff. Then he does a good job at kiting them back through the lantern here. Monk with the Ring of Peace as well. So we get 3 stacks of the lantern. That could have been 4. I don't know, it was a weird lantern. Weird pride, weird lantern. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Now, actually it seems like he's trying to pull them into the lantern as well, but at this point the lantern will be gone anyways. So, yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm tanking this guy. I feel like I'm always just tanking one of the mobs in the packs. I don't know. So we get Doom Winds back in a second, and we're already close to the 4th pride, right? Which is, again, as I said, weird for the route. Like, I don't know. At this point, I had the mindset during pretty much 80% of the key. I had the mindset we won't time this key anyway, right? And I was streaming, as I said earlier, like I was streaming this key, and everyone in chat was like, bro, what the fuck is this route? You won't time this key anyway. And we're just all memeing and shit like that. And it was just so weird. Then here again as well, I'm in the route, and I have to healing search myself and to astral shift to not die in a fucking route. Like, that was insane. So we kinda saved it though, so I don't die here. And now we're 1% away from the pride. So his plan is, which is quite obvious by now, right? To use the 80% pride on the second boss, and then basically just don't use a pride on the third one. So since we want to lust this boss as well, the second one, we won't have either lust nor prideful for the third boss. And if you've played the third boss in Sanguine Depths, especially on Tyrannical, and on a 19 key, without pride or lust, that's gonna be like interesting. Yeah, I'd say let's just call it interesting, right? So we will see how that goes. First of all, though, we're gonna kill the pride here. I don't use Doom Winds, obviously. I just hold all of my cooldowns for the boss here. And yeah, we will just see how that goes. So I got Chain Harvest mentioned it multiple times in earlier Mythic Plus commentaries. I often just hold Chain Harvest for the prides basically, so I can extend the duration of the pride. Basically, just support the healer with a bit of healing there, and just take it slow. Don't waste my cooldowns on the pride. And yeah, I actually don't think that we used any cooldowns on this pride, because I'm doing top damage without using anything basically. And there you can see there was the Chain Harvest to heal the group a bit. Again, getting some bits there from Finoisk. Sorry for the alerts there. And now we got Pride. We go into the third boss. We use Bloodlust as well. Very scary boss. Definitely want to instantly nuke the ads as soon as they spawn. Be careful with the Castigate to not cleave the damage onto other people. So right here I'm in Doomwind's Wolf's Ascendance when the ad spawns, which is nice to just instantly delete it. Yeah, that ad definitely didn't have a long life. The boss is already down to like 50% already, which is nice. Because this is actually a boss that you don't want to play for a long time, I can assure you that, right? So at this point, next Castigate is over, the next ad is gonna spawn in 5 seconds. I actually tried to pull some Maelstrom for this. So right here I get up to like 8 stacks to instantly Chain Lightning the ad here and to crash it and then just funnel damage into it. I Astral Shift here and take a healing potion and healing surge myself because of the Castigate, because it just does so much damage on high Tyrannical keys. It's actually not even funny anymore how much damage it does. So the boss is down to 18%. We're getting close to killing it here. It's still rather scary though, like don't get me wrong, you always have to dodge like the orbs that go around in a circle and cross each other all the time. You want to dodge them as well. I use Doomwinds here at the end, even though the boss is almost dead, just to make sure that we survive. I Chain Harvest for the healing as well. Just make sure that we kill this and don't have any more deaths or wipe. And then the Void Zone makes it really hard here to stand anywhere without taking damage, but we get it done and we kill the boss. We get 15.5 minutes left for 20% trash, 1 pride and 2 bosses on Tyrannical. Not too promising in my opinion, especially since the route was so weird. Like from this point onwards, I had no idea really how we would manage to do the trash. Like I would imagine we would just skip everything after the third boss, other than the stuff in the hallway that you have to do. And I guess we will see what the tank ended up doing. So we kill this inspired mob right here and kill the other 2. The thing is, typically I would use Doomwinds on the last pack before the boss and then let the cooldown come back during the pride to use it on this mob, right? Which is something that I can't do now because we won't have a pride. So I actually have to think about how I use the Doomwinds. And in retrospect, I should have used it again here. Because it was ready for a few seconds here, I should have just used it on those 2 enemies. Because I can't use it in this pack, right? Because if I use it in this pack, it won't be ready for the boss again. Or at least not on pull, which is when I want to have it, right? So kind of a miscalculation here on my end, I gotta say. But it's basically due to me not being like aware of us playing this without a pride. I mean, obviously at this point I noticed it, but I just took too long to adapt to the way that we played the key, basically, right? So I'm just tickling those enemies, like I'm not doing any damage at all. Like, okay, I was actually top damage right as I said that, but pretty much no one is using anything into those enemies because we just need the damage for the boss, right? Because this is actually a difficult boss in higher Tyrannical keys. So I use Wolves here, into Ascendance, 1 Wind Strike to get a Forceful Wind, into Doomwinds, into more Wind Strikes. The tank actually tied their Invis after, so I was actually right with us skipping pretty much everything after this boss. You need 4 orbs on a 19 Tyrannical as an Enhancement Shaman to survive this. So I take 4 orbs. I actually took 5. Okay, I miscounted there actually. The Windwalker died. Even though there were some orbs left, I think he just didn't think that he would need more. I Chain Harvested here for some healing during that phase where he does huge AoE damage to just support the healer. The Monk gets Battle Rest here, and we can continue the damage. This was, by the way, all of our burst, and the boss is not even at 70%. So you can actually see why this boss is really difficult if you don't have Lust and if you don't have Prideful, right? So I take 3 orbs here, and as you can see, I took 3 orbs, and with 3 orbs I would 100% die, right? But I play Spirit Wolf. A lot of people actually tell me to play Earthshield, but I'm definitely not a big fan of playing Earthshield in Mythic Plus, because I like Spirit Wolf so much. You get the mobility, and the most important part, you get the damage reduction, right? You can see it up here. I got 4 stacks of the damage reduction of Spirit Wolf, which if you stay in Ghost Wolf for a while, it stacks up a movement increase and a damage reduction, right? And because I was in it for a few seconds, I got 4 stacks, which would be, I think, if I'm correct right here, 20% damage reduction, right? So I got the 3 orbs that I picked up and the 20% damage reduction. And let's see for how much damage that hits me for. It goes off, and I dropped to like 40%. And I may have survived it without Spirit Wolf, but it was just way safer to do it with pre-wolfing it, basically, which is it's a term that I used in BFA a lot, actually, when I was playing higher keys, because in BFA towards the end, when I was playing like 23 or 24 keys, you had to pre-wolf a lot of stuff. Like, just remember, for example, what's it called? Freehold. Freehold, the first boss. If you didn't play like the fence mechanic where you just line of sighted every powder shot, you had to pre-wolf them. You had to pre-wolf them to be sure to survive them. Pretty much every other powder shot, right? So again, right here, like I only got 2 orbs this time. Only 2, right? So I stay in Ghost Wolf again. But I'm pretty certain that with 2 orbs, even though I got 4 stacks of Spirit Wolf, I would have died. Which is why you can see down here, it's lit up right now. I'm pressing wall. I wall it. So now I'm in Astral Shift, as you can see. It goes off, and I drop to 45%. This is through 40% damage reduction of Astral Shift, 20% damage reduction from Spirit Wolf, and 2 orbs. And if I didn't wall there, I think I would have died at this point, right? So definitely handle the situation, topping myself with a Healing Surge here, because now there's big AoE damage again. I got Healing Stream down as well. Healing Stream really important in this boss fight to support the healer. Like, I don't want to be the healer in this situation. Like, he's probably struggling quite a bit to keep us alive. You can see how low the tank dropped there again. And the boss is only at 37% HP, right? And we've been playing this boss for over 2 minutes. So you can definitely see why you would want to have a Pride and Bloodlust on this boss, right? So I pick 3 orbs here, and I just Spirit Wolf it again, just to be safe. I'm at 81%, I wasn't topped, and I dropped down to 20% HP. I Healing Surge myself to top me. I got Chain Harvest here as well. I get stacks, Chain Harvest to top the whole group. Again, don't waste it for damage in this boss fight. Definitely keep it for healing. It's a really powerful tool that you have as an Enhancement Shaman if you play Venthyr. So definitely keep that in mind. The boss is down to 10% now, so we will get 1 more set of orbs, which we're gonna see how I handle this one. Probably just gonna Ghost Wolf it again. Take 1 orb, take 2 orbs, and that's pretty much it. 2 orbs, and yeah, I mean, you saw it, right? 2 orbs and 4 stacks of Spirit Wolf, and I dropped down from 100 to 8% HP. So if I didn't Spirit Wolf that, I would have been dead. So what can I say? It's an amazing talent. I like playing it in Mythic Plus, and I can just recommend you playing it as well. The mage actually somehow manages to die in the end there, which is unfortunate, but you know, that's just how it is here. So right now we want to invis pretty much both of these packs. If I just see this pack that we invest here, I can actually understand now why he wanted to skip this. I'm not saying that it's the right call or that this was a good route in general, but I can see why you wouldn't want to play those packs, even though it's tyrannical, right? Maybe it's not that bad after all, if you would play them. So, I mean, yeah, we still didn't have a full wipe, which is nice. We got 10 minutes, a bit less than 10 minutes, for the hallway, the trash after the hallway, the Pride, and then the last boss in 10 minutes. Which, if you know this hallway, I don't like it, okay? Let me just phrase it that way. I don't like this hallway, okay? It stresses me out, I don't like playing it, and yeah. So I actually don't focus the boss here, but I actually focus the the small caster adds, right? So I actually use Ascendance and Doomwinds here, and just cleave all of the casters down and interrupt them and try to just like I stunned them, I sundered them to try to interrupt as many casters as possible, and then go on to the boss, right? Because it happened to me a lot, where in this hallway everyone, like the whole group, is just pumping damage into the boss and just ignoring everything else that is going on, and then you just wipe to it, right? So in my opinion, even though it may not be the most efficient way of doing it, but because I'm playing this with a pack group, in my opinion it's worth to just take care of the ads, so the other guys just have the boss to focus on, right? And don't have to worry about all the other stuff, which is what we're doing right here. The tank, incredibly low, 29 stacks of necrotic, and we just try to push the boss to 90%, so he leaves, which is what we did right here. And we stabilize. It was really close. Obviously, because we skipped, it's really scary here. Because we skipped the trash, as soon as anyone dies here in this hallway, we're pretty much fucked, especially if it's the tank. As long as we have a battle rest still, that's fine, right? But the thing is, if we have a wipe here, the key is done. And since we don't have much time left, if the tank dies, it's pretty much over as well. Because if we don't get the insta battle rest on the tank, chances are that we will just wipe and then it's over. So at this point he wants the lantern here because we have so many small ads. So I activate the lantern. We miss a few of them there, which was my bad because I didn't do it quick enough. Definitely something that I have to be quicker with to activate the lantern there. And we only got 3 buffs there, which is unfortunate, but yeah, still better than nothing, I guess. So we still got a few mobs here, which maybe... No, he's actually not gonna pull them back into the lantern, which is gonna stay at 3 stacks. We used the shield here for the Gloom Squall, which was nice. And we just trying to get the boss down to 80% here to face him, obviously. Now we actually pull the mobs into the lantern again. Again here, the small casting ads, I stun them just as in the beginning of the key, stun into Sunder to shut them down as long as possible. Use my interrupts and just focus them down. The boss is not as important in my opinion. Now we actually get up to 10 stacks in the lantern, which is nice. So we face the boss here at 80%. And yeah, now it's just one more phase of doing the boss to like down to like 70%, and then we should be good. Again, as I mentioned multiple times now, the small ads casting there, I just focus them down, while the other ones are doing damage to the boss. So just 2 left, we just kill them, and then it's just funneling damage from the Gargons, that the small bears or dogs or whatever that species is supposed to be. And we just funnel damage from them into the boss, right, to face him as quick as possible. In this case, like right here in this situation, I was really scared that the tank would just actually chain this into the next trash pack, which that would deplete the key 100% of the time, right? And at this point, I don't trust this tank, right? At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he just pulled the boss in this situation into the pack, right? But he actually didn't. The monk randomly just walked in and pulled. The healer, the tank wanted the healer to take a drink because we were out of combat to get some mana back. Because you can see the healer is at 10% mana or 15% or something like that, right? And the monk randomly just walks in and pulls the next pack, and I'm like, what is going on? So at this point we have to play the pack, those 5 enemies here, without the healer having any mana. So at this point I know I have to use cooldowns, right? I use Doomwinds, I use Ascendance. We just have to pump damage and try to survive this pack, because the healer, as you can see, he's at like 2% mana. He's basically at this point, right? So I try to do as much damage as I can. The monk actually used cooldowns as well, luckily, so he can cover up his mistake. The tank actually dies here, and he gets battle rest immediately. I tell him to not take the CR and actually take my res instead, like the normal res. He almost forgets the shield here. I remember this now. Like, I res him, and he instantly just starts walking and forgets the shield, which is why I tell him to take the shield. So you can see he just stopped, he comes back and takes the shield. Like, this is just, like, what is going on in this key at this point, right? We don't even have 5 minutes left. We still have to do all of this trash like this trash pack right here with the Inspired Mob, we have to do a Pride, and then the whole last boss on Tyrannical, within like 4.5 minutes. So it's actually coming down to the wire, it's so close, right? So we just cleave them down, try to do as much damage as possible. I use Doom Winds, Wolf's Doom Winds actually, because during the Pride I will get my Doom Winds back for the last boss anyways. So we trigger Pride while this Huntmaster is still alive, but we just finish him off here, and then we get onto the Pride. So now it's just trying to survive this. Again, if we wipe on this Pride, it's over basically for the key. So we have to play this Pride really safe. I got Chain Harvest ready, so if we need the healing, I can use the healing, which is good. Yeah, pretty much no one using cooldowns again. We're just tickling the Pride down until it dies, and then we can just hard blast on the last boss. I mean, we have Bloodlust ready, right? We will have Bloodlust, we will have the Prideful buff, and all of our cooldowns. So yeah, 3.5 minutes on Tyrannical. It can be fine. We will see how it turns out. The Pride is almost dead. It's down to like 12% or 10%. I already used my Chain House. I actually hard cast the Healing Surge there, but I interrupted. So now we get 3 minutes 22 for the last boss. I don't have cooldowns at the moment, right? So I just have to use Doom Winds here. And I get the Wicked Rush during Doom Winds, which is bad, but yeah, what can you do? I should have waited until after the rush, basically. I wanted to wait with Doom Winds for my cooldowns, but I noticed that my other cooldowns wouldn't have been in the Prideful Bloodlust window anymore, so I decided to just use Doom Winds. I gotta say I miscalculated my cooldowns a tiny bit, because at this point I was really confused like how the key was gonna go in the end, and I was just always, okay, this pack has to die really quick if we want a chance to time this key, and this pack has to die really quick, and this pack has to die really quick, right? So in the end I was basically just using my cooldowns all the time. Right here I actually die because I had to rush, I Spirit Wolfed it, but then there was like the zones on the ground where I waited for the left one to be over to go to the left. But then I already died there before the zone left, and I could step to the side there basically. So I rest. Now I can finally use all of my cooldowns. I use Wolf's, Ascendance, Doom Winds. Obviously I don't have a food buff anymore because I died, but it's not that big of a deal. We got 2 minutes left for 9% of the boss. I kind of waste my Chain Harvest there because the group was kind of topped, because I was kind of slow with using Chain Harvest there. But at the end of the day it was still okay, I guess. I just have to pay attention to support the healer here, because in this boss fight there's just in total so much damage coming in that your healers may be struggling sometimes, even though they have a lot of mana. Like, mana is definitely not the problem at this point for the healer, but you can still see he's pumping 8k HPS, right? Because there's just so much group damage coming into the group that I actually just have to help him. You can see I used the Healing Surge there, used the Healing Surge for the Monk there to save his life on the Gloom Squall, and I'm just trying to keep the group alive. Because we still need 5% of boss HP, right? And we only have like a minute left. The mage drops really low. I Healing Surge him here. The healer drops really low. And you can see I'm just off healing as much as I can. I got 1.3k HPS in this fight. I almost healed as much as the tank. And the tank, look at how low he drops, right? Like, it's so close. I Astral Shift here to survive this for sure. Again, another Healing Surge on the healer to support him. Like, look at how low the group is here. It's actually insane. And now the healer is seeded, right? At this point, we still only got 1% to go. We got 40 seconds, but the mage is almost dead, and the healer is in a seed. So if the boss fight still lasts for 8 seconds, if I keep the seed alive for 8 seconds, the healer will rest, right? Which is why what I'm trying to do. So as soon as I get a stack here, I actually heal the mage to full here, because the healer got topped anyways already. And at this point, I just charge, and with a few seconds left, we actually time this key. And I don't know how we did it. It was weird. It was one of the weirdest keys in terms of the route and in terms of how we played. And like some people acted weird, and I don't know. Like, I don't even know what to say, okay? It was a weird key. I'm glad that we timed it. 19 Sanguine deaths, definitely a nice achievement in my opinion. The overall was okay. The Windwalker did a bit more than I did. The mage surprisingly low. Maybe Sanguine Depth is not the best key for a fire mage, but I don't know. That's just how it is. And it was an off-meta comp, really hard key, really weird route, but we timed it. And yeah, so I hope you could learn something from it, either about enhancement gameplay and cooldown management and stuff like that, or maybe about Sanguine Depths itself. And if that's the case, then leave me some feedback in the comments, or just leave a like on the video, whatever you want to do. And as I said multiple times, this was streamed on Twitch, twitch.tv/waveswow if you want to check out my stream. And yeah, that should be it. I hope you enjoyed watching. Take care and stay healthy, and I will see you guys in the next video on the live stream. Peace.